Greetings, friends, fellow citizens, fellow patriots, and even non-citizens, and welcome to this edition of the We the People Convention weekly news and opinion podcast on this very historic day in world history and in my lifetimes, as the United States and Israel have attacked Iran to destroy their nuclear weapons. We're going to go right into President Trump's announcement, which happened just a few hours ago. We are recording this podcast at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on February 28th. President Trump made this announcement on X at like 2:30 in the morning, just a few hours before. I think it's best for us to play this whole statement and then go from there.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal. Something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
So there you have it. It is not for us to debate whether this is the right time or place for this actions. That will be debated for decades to come. Our job is to support our president and our brave men and women in the military, and that's what we're going to do. And the best way that we can do that is for you and I to say a prayer right now that God will protect our soldiers and sailors and airmen, and that God will spare as many people in the Arab world, in Israel, all the people who've been terrorized by this evil regime. Let us just say, take a minute to just say a silent prayer, and then we'll talk about what has to happen next, and then get on with the podcast. Thank you. People ask sometimes, why don't I lead the prayer? And the reason I don't is because I think prayer is very personal. And you're going to pray for things that maybe I'm not going to pray for, and vice versa. But it's important that we pray. And if you're not a Christian or a Jew or even a Muslim or any other religion and you don't believe in prayer, if you're an atheist, at least you could take a few minutes to put some good thoughts forward and think about, peace and hope for, the least number of casualties possible. Let me just say this. The most important thing for all of us to look out for is that the Ayatollah and his inner circle are killed or they leave the country. What you need to know, we need to understand, is that there is no example in history of a country's regime being overthrown without troops on the ground. Without, with just bombing from the sky and from the sea, that's never been enough. And in Venezuela, what do we see? They could have killed Maduro right there, but it wouldn't have had the same effect as us sending troops in to grab him and get him out of there, and then put people in place to keep the country stable. So this is very serious stuff. And the president has said this is going to be not hours, but days of bombing. The stakes are incredibly high. We don't really know what weapons Iran has. We do know they have missile technology. We do know that China is one of their allies. We do know that after the attack, the 12-hour attack where we obliterated their nuclear sites, that they've been in touch with China, and there's rumors that China has provided them with hypersonic missiles which can strike supposedly U.S. aircraft carriers. That would be a huge tragedy for the United States if that is true and they are able to inflict that kind of damage on us. Regardless, this changes history. This, through your and my lifetime, at least my adult lifetime, I've heard them chant, "Death to America, death to Israel, death to the great Satan." They say we are Satan. We, Christians, believe that they are Satan, and that this fight we're in America, on our soil, and globally, is a fight between good and evil, and a fight to defeat Satan. That fight just took on a whole new level of intensity about 6 hours ago. And so, keep an eye on what's going on. Pray that we can be successful in cutting off the head of the snake and giving the Iranian people the chance that President Trump promised them in that video to get their freedom and take back their government. Nothing is for sure. Yes, we believe in our military, we trust our president, but nothing is for sure in war. And you got to realize that, and you got to be ready for that. Historic days indeed. Keep praying for our men and women, and for our president, and for his advisors, and for everyone around the world who is in harm's way today. Okay. So let's go with what was going to be the start of the show until a few hours ago, and that is, without any doubt, the State of the Union address. I hope you watched it. It certainly has been up on our website at wethepeopleconvention.org in the video section. Within an hour of it, being finished, I think it was one of the greatest speeches President Trump has ever made. I was totally stunned by how good it was. And it wasn't just a speech. It was a presentation. It was like a corporate presentation with, all these people being honored and medals being given to make the points. It was the longest speech ever, longest State of the Union speech ever, and I wasn't bored. And I rarely watch them end to end. It was a magnificent, orchestrated presentation that accomplished amazing things. There are people who say that Stephen Miller was the chief architect of that. I'm not sure. That wouldn't surprise me. But this speech sets the tone for the 2026 election. It basically just lays it out what the difference is. And for all those of you who haven't seen the videos and all that stuff, the main piece that you're going to play, you're going to share, it will be linked on our podcast page, is where he basically literally trapped the Democrats into showing that they're not on the side of America, they're on the side of illegal immigrants. And they made a mistake. Glenn Beck said, and I agree with him 1,000%, this was the biggest destruction of a brand that he's ever seen. And I don't think the Democrat, communist, Marxists can recover from this if you just keep pressing it, and if the Republicans just keep pressing it, and if it's part of every TV commercial and ad from now to the end of this year. I keep telling you, this is the year that we win the war. This, what President Trump did, was a devastating blow. So let me play that video clip for you.
One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, there you have it. That was unbelievably powerful and draws a clear line. Who are you with? Are you with the American people or are you with the illegal aliens? They made a mistake. They forgot their Marxist training. What you just witnessed there is indoctrinated, useful idiots that the Communist Party has trained to spout their talking points, but they forgot their training. They should have stood up and clapped because the goal of the Marxists is to lie to you, to sell you propaganda. And if they were really smart, and they're not, they're really stupid, they're fools, they would have stood up. But they didn't have Their little Marxist, handlers speaking in their ears, so they didn't know what to do. And Trump and probably Stephen Miller just trapped them. Play that video in every major city, in every blue state. Who's for that? No one's for that. He isolated them, and it's going to be devastating. Devastating. It was a brilliant play, and again, it was a risk. They could have stood up. President Trump knew that, but then when they didn't, he just played. He pointed to them. He said, you should be ashamed. Then he went into the sanctuary cities. Folks, it was the most devastating political attack I've ever seen, and it's ever been done. And it's just great. It's just great. And you need to share it till you can't share it anymore with everyone. That is who they are. They hate America. They hate you. They don't think their job as your congressman, who you pay their salaries, they don't think their job is to serve you. They're too busy serving themselves by intentionally bringing in millions of illegals to steal elections, to steal our tax dollars through the Somalis and all the other ones, the cartels, getting money from our social programs to fund the Democrat Marxist Party to overthrow the U.S. government. Trump wasn't done. Here's another clip.
Agree, no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we've been talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy. Amazing, gentlemen. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we? Huh?
So he just kept going. I mean, it was relentless. And what didn't they stand for? Well, if you go, to the page on our website, it lists all the things that the Democrats would not stand for. And the list is unbelievable. It just goes on and on and on and on. And it was, they wouldn't stand for the hockey team. That clip, there was a woman who was stolen from her parents to have transgender surgeries done to her without their parents' knowledge, and they wouldn't stand it. We're going to stop that. They wouldn't stand for our heroes, people that were getting medals. It was brilliant and brutal at the same time. And the speech was also, it was powerful in that it celebrated America. It celebrated our 250th year. It was year anniversary. It wasn't just about, what's wrong, but it was about what's right. And the president's close was beautiful. It's beautiful. Listen to his close.
There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of Providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
That was soaring rhetoric. It was inspirational. It talked, to the American people. And, if you haven't watched it, it's at wethepeopleconvention.org in the video section, and it's worth watching. The moments where, the one of the moments that touched me most was the helicopter pilot who was shot so badly in the Maduro operation in Venezuela, where he was shot by machine gun fire in his legs and his hip as he's flying the key helicopter for that raid. And if he fails, the mission probably gets called off and is a failure. And he kept hanging in there, bleeding profusely. The blood is flowing down the aisle of the plane. And Trump did a magnificent job of describing the scene. And he fought through the pain and landed the helicopter with our main guys in it at exactly the spot it needed to be before he passed out. And he was there on crutches. He's still recovering. And he was given the Congressional Medal of Honor. I believe that's what he was given. It was the most significant medal. And it just showed you America, who we are, toughness, resolve, the willingness to go in and fight for freedom and pay a price. And there were just moment after moment after moment. You've got to watch it. You've got to share it. It's at our website, because the American people need to understand who the Democrat Marxist communists are. And in that speech, he just lays it out. It was fantastic. And there were more things. I did this after the speech. I texted this and emailed this to you. And if you're not getting our texts and emails, go to wethepeopleconvention.org, right on the front page, clicks on, here's my email, here's my text message, text number, and we'll send you these stories throughout the week, because as I'm just showing you in this podcast, things are happening all the time in Trump time. I thought this was a very important article to put out. Take a look at the economic state of the union. So this is done by Steve Moore and the guys at Unleash Prosperity. They sent an email out the day after the State of the Union. And in this email, you'll see just chart after chart after chart that says, polls show that more than 8 of 10 voters want President Trump to focus on the economy in his speech. That's a good idea, and Trump should tout a series of amazing economic and financial accomplishments. And here they are. So here's a chart about Trump slashes Biden inflation from 9.1% to 2.4%. Here's another chart. Trump slashes crime across America to the lowest levels since 1900. Trump cuts illegal immigration by 99.9%. Trump drains the swamp by the lowest number of federal employees since the 1960s. Drain the swamp, right? Trump middle class income surge under Trump. You can get all these at wethepeopleconvention.org, and you can click on this graphic that I showed you here. Take a look at the economic state of the union and share that with your fellow citizens, because they don't know it. That's why we got polls showing people don't think Trump's doing a good job with the economy. What are you talking about? I mean, what are you talking about? Now, again, I got it. I told you last week about our electric bill because of the cold month we had. That's serious. That's the highest electric bill I've ever had. But it lacks perspective. Things are heading in the right direction. I was talking to one of our patriots yesterday, I think it was, and he said, are you going to mention about tax returns? Have you filed your tax return yet? In the past, you might have waited to file because you owed money. Go now, run, file your tax return as soon as possible, because you're going to get more money than you think. And as a senior citizen, Nan and I, both on Social Security, we got saved, literally, by what? Trump, you each get a $6,000 tax credit. So for the two of us, that's $12,000. Now, we don't make a lot of money and we don't usually have to pay taxes, but we had some things that happened last year that raised our income substantially for just 1 year. And I thought we were going to have to pay like $4,000 in taxes. We didn't have to pay any. Okay? Trump did that. You're going to feel that. If you had overtime, if you get tips, right? That's what Trump's been talking about. And then people should change their withholding because the new tax bill is going to take less out. You're going to owe less taxes, so don't give it to them. Get more in your paycheck. It's important for you to share this information because people don't really get it, all right? But then Trump also talked about this whole idea of we're gonna pass a SAVE Act to stop the Democrats. Here's what he said. Can't be any clearer. Listen to this.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. And no more crooked mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. None. And this should be an easy one. And by the way, it's polling at 89%, including Democrats. 89%. And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens. And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John.
Yeah, there you have it. Did you ever think you would hear a president of the United States it's covered on all the major networks, live, say the only reason they won't pass this is because they want to cheat, they do cheat, they can't win any elections if they don't cheat. And that's the truth. And no Democrats will vote for this. Think about that. Share that with your Democrat friends. Why won't they vote? Because they cheat. That's why. Because they don't represent you. They represent illegal aliens and Marxism across the globe. That's who they represent. But then the next day, And I've been on you. I have been on you every week for weeks on end to call John Thune every day, to call your senators every day. Why? Because if the Republicans won't invoke the filibuster and pass this, that means they want to cheat as well. They're saying to you and me that your vote doesn't count. They're afraid. John Thune, Mitch McConnell, the rhinos are afraid to pass the SAVE Act because if you and I, if our votes actually counted and our votes weren't stolen by illegals countering our votes, they wouldn't win these elections no matter how much money they spent. They've stolen our agency, okay? Our agency to vote. The fundamental value of this representative republic, they've stolen. And by not passing this, they're telling you you shouldn't even bother to vote because you're wasting your time. And so we've got to make it clear to them, again, and it's not 89% President Trump, it's like 85% are for this. If 85% of Americans are for something and our representatives in government can't pass it, what does that say to you? That says we don't have a representative government because they're not representing us. And so I put this story up, okay? Do not believe or trust Thune. He's trying to set us up to fail. He is gaslighting us. And let me just play this video of the weasel words he used the next morning.
And if so, when?
Well, we will. We'll put the Democrats on the record. And it's a stark contrast, Aisha. The Democrats, even in the chamber last night, having to sit there and try and defend allowing non-citizens to vote in American elections. That is a losing proposition for them. So we will get a vote on it. And we are right now in the middle of a government shutdown, so we've got to try and get the government opened up first. But in due time, we will get that up on the floor. We will have a vote on it. We will make sure that the Democrats are on the record. It is a stark contrast between Republicans and Democrats about how they want to handle elections in this country. And this is going to put them, I think, in a very difficult position. And it's an issue, if I were running as a Democrat in the midterm elections in November, I wouldn't want to have to defend.
Okay. Do you see what he's saying? Do you see what he's doing? He didn't say we're going to pass it, did he? He didn't say we're going to pass it. Oh, no, we're going to get the Democrats on the record. Hey, John, here's a memo to you. Go look at that video clip I played where he said the first show, the SAVE Act, none of these people will stand up. He already put them on the record, John. We don't need you to put them on the record. We need you to pass the freaking law. And the stark contrast isn't between Republicans and Democrats. It's between politicians and the American public. That's the stark contrast. You want to cheat. We want our vote back. Call him relentlessly. Call every senator. Demand. There's like 4 senators holding this up, supposedly. McConnell, the guy from Utah. Call your senators. Folks, this is the line in the sand. This is it. You don't have the choice, John Thune, to not represent us. You don't have the choice. If we have to have a vote to remove him as the Senate leader, then we need to push for that. It doesn't matter. And so, we have other things. We have to get the government open. Yeah. Did you see the clips on X and other social media on Thursday? That the Senate, who is so busy, they can't go, make the Democrats filibuster the SAVE Act, and they can't vote to open the government. They held, folks, I'm not making this up, a dog parade in the Senate. I'm not making this up. Go look for it, okay? They literally brought their dogs and they paraded them in the Senate and all stood by and clapped. That's what these pieces of crap who say they represent you but don't represent you were doing. That's their priorities. Them. John Thune said in that video clip that what matters is that they get reelected, not that America gets saved. Is that clear? That clip will be on our podcast page. You can watch it over and over again. That's what he's saying. Oh, we're going to get them on the record so we can run TV ads, but we're not going to pass the SAVE Act. Well, you and I have to decide that, not them. And we've got to do whatever we've got to do to make it clear to them, you're going to pass it or you're going to lose, whether the Democrats are on the record or not, because you'll be on the record for not passing the SAVE Act. Scary as hell. Just unbelievable. So then Trump made some other statements that were important. And, he said that tech companies were going to pay for the data center energy use, because I know this is a big issue for you guys. So here's this story.
Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years.
So this is something that a lot of you are concerned about, and I'm going to talk about how I'm concerned that you're concerned and whether that's a legitimate concern, okay? But again, President Trump doesn't just talk, he acts. So what's going to happen? Tech companies to meet at White House to commit to paying for their energy, water, and infrastructure costs for the data centers. This is happening this coming week, okay? Leaders in big tech are expected to meet with President Donald Trump at the White House on March 3rd to pledge that their data centers will not increase the energy bills of Americans living near their facilities. Major tech companies will join President Trump at the White House next week to formally sign the Ratepayer Protection Pledge that he announced during the State of the Union. The March 4th event will include representatives from Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, XAI, Oracle, and OpenAI. The initiative will require massive companies to build, bring, or buy their own power supply for new artificial intelligence data centers in order to avoid causing American electricity bills to skyrocket. President Trump is committed to ensuring American AI dominance while simultaneously lowering costs for working families, the White House said on Wednesday. Trump first revealed his plans at the State of the Union, and now he's going to do it. He's going to get them to do it. So the other thing that he announced, which I thought was really good, is the Trump administration announced the largest energy loan in U.S. history to expand state power grids. Because as the president said, the problem is our grid is so old. And gosh dang it, why is that? Why did we let it get so old? Why did we not invest in our grid? Boy, it makes me so angry. This is not even, compared to the other things we spend money on, it wasn't even a big lift. We haven't done it, but at least Trump is now trying to do it. The Trump administration announced Wednesday a historic multi-billion-dollar loan meant to expand and upgrade America's energy grids in 2 states. The DOE stated that $26.5 billion package funding by working family tax cut law will support 2 wholly owned subsidiaries of Southern Company, an electric utility, and estimated that the DOE's loan would save Americans $7 billion in energy costs. That's interesting. The DOE stated the loan would create thousands of jobs and increase grid reliability in Alabama and Georgia. Thanks to President Trump and the working families tax cut, the Energy Department is lowering energy costs and ensuring the American people have access to affordable, reliable, and secure energy for decades to come. The president has been clear, Energy Secretary Chris Wright said, America must reverse the energy subtraction agenda of past administrations and add more reliable power generation to our electric grid. The DO plans for the loan to fund development over 16 gigawatts of power to the electric grid. The DOE cites gas power, nuclear improved by upgrade licenses, hydropower modernization, and battery energy storage systems to be energy sources that will be utilized through this grid expansion. So that was good news. That was really good news. So I've got an article that is linked in the story about the White House meeting, and you should read it. I'm thinking of posting it separately because it's really in depth. But a guy came out with a book, Code Red, Inside the Left's 2026 Strategy to Weaponize AI Job Loss Fears Before the Midterm Elections. And so the book, here's a picture of the book, Code Red, okay? And it's by this guy named Winton Hall, who's really not an expert in this, but his book is interesting. Let me just read a little bit of this. Over the next 9 months leading up to 2026 midterm elections, Americans should expect a torrent of messaging designed to heighten anxiety over real and perceived AI job losses, a plan that left-leaning globalist billionaires hope will sour voters' economic outlook and help Democrats return to power. Well, what's that? The political playbook has 3 parts. Number 1, convince Americans that mass AI job loss is inevitable. 2, channel that fear into galvanizing support for universal basic income redistribution in the long term. That's communism. That's socialism. Co-op populist concerns over AI data centers driving up electric costs, water bills for everyday Americans in the short term. The strategy, years in the making, is backed by hundreds of millions of dollars by left-leaning Silicon Valley cash and a sprawling ecosystem of advocacy groups and nonprofits, which I document in my new book, Code Red: The Left, the Right, China, and the Race to Control AI. The 3-pronged approach to create fear and uncertainty is already kicking into high gear. Democrats are wasting no time. AI is fast becoming a defining issue on the campaign trail for the next generation of Democrats, Axios wrote. The tone is increasingly populist. AI oligarchs will profit while ordinary Americans are forced to pick up the tab or lose their jobs altogether. Indeed, a Senate report by Democrat staffers on the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, led by Bernie Sanders, warned that AI and automation will replace nearly 100 million jobs over the next decade. The left-leaning billionaire AI titans running America's frontier labs are playing their part as well. Week after week, they deliver a steady drumbeat of dire, headline-grabbing predictions that keep investors cutting checks, businesses buying in, and everyday Americans are nervous. Parents, meanwhile, scramble to help their kids keep up, trying to separate tech hype cycles from real innovation. So what's the other side of the story? Trump AI czar David Sachs is quick to point out that, so far, mass AI-driven job losses have yet to manifest. To the contrary, he says, the AI data center's construction boom and the surrounding energy production that supports it is benefiting workers, including electricians, concrete pourers, plumbers, drywall hangers, and other trades. Okay, that's fine. The Wall Street Journal has described data center builders as a gold rush for construction workers, boosting some wages by as much as 30% and lifting some trades into 6-figure incomes. But that's hardly the story voters hear from the AI industry elites. They are single-mindedly focused on scaring people with some of these headlines around job loss, said Sachs on an all-in podcast. It's a tried and true tactic of people who want to give more power to the government to scare the population, because if you can scare the population, make them fearful, then they will cry out for the government to solve the problem, right? Regulate this, solve the problem. And that's what I see here, is that you've got this elaborate network of front organizations which are motivated by ideology that's funded by hardcore leftists. Then they are committed leftists and they're Trump haters. As Code Red demonstrates, AI architects have spent over a decade studying and promoting a universal basic income as a policy solution if their promises of AI job replacement power comes to fruition. It's a classic Machiavellian move. Create a problem, then propose your ideas to solve it. Okay? Folks, I think we're in a psyop. I know many of you on the conservative side are just up in arms. Stop the data centers. Shut it down. Stop AI development, while China's rushing full speed ahead. Okay? Now, here's what I'm going to give you some historical perspective. Those of you who've been with us for 16 years, and many of you watching this have been, remember that the Tea Party, and specifically Tom Zawistowski, and as the executive director of the Portage County Tea Party in Portage County, Ohio, when they were demonizing, when the left was trying to outlaw fracking, they did it in New York State. This all came out of Cornell University in New York State. They banned fracking in New York, and you still can't frack in New York State, which is a huge economic hit on New York State. They came to Ohio, and if they could have banned fracking in Ohio, where we have huge fracking reserves, unbelievable natural gas and oil reserves that fracking has unleashed, if they would have been successful, we never, ever would have had the economy we have now. We never would have had the independence we have now. The Portage County Tea Party and the Tea Party in Ohio band together. I personally there were two professors at Kent State University who were geology professors. And I said, I'm being told this fracking is dangerous. It's poisoning our water. Your faucet will start on fire from the methane. It causes earthquakes. We got to stop it. What's the truth? These are professors from Kent State University, no conservative bastion. I went to their home and spent an entire day, and they taught me how to frack. Literally. They taught me about every piece of equipment, how it works, what the problems could be, and if there's problems, it's because somebody did something wrong, but it could be done safely. And with that knowledge, I was confident and went out and we funded the movie Frack Nation, and we pushed the politicians in Ohio, and we stopped them from banning fracking in Ohio and in America. I see the same thing. My problem is I've been trying to get that same knowledge I got by going to those professors' home to study it, to understand AI. Okay? Is it really going to take all our jobs? Is it really going to just destroy our economy, or are we going to adapt? I'm telling you, my personal experience with AI is that it's not going to take all our jobs. It's going to be a tool that humans are going to use to do better work, to be more productive, to be more successful. Okay? And I'm going to show you later in this podcast something about AI in education that will help you envision that. Okay? But I wanted to bring this up because I'll put this story will be linked on our podcast page. You need to read the whole thing and maybe get this guy's book, because I think we're being gaslit by the Marxists, and all the tech guys are Marxists. All of them are Marxists, have been forever, okay? And we got to have a different approach. We got to stop helping them, and we've got to fight them with facts. I'm going to try to provide you the facts in this podcast throughout the weeks and on our website that you can share. But it's up to us to win this AI fight and give America the dominance we need to have to do what? To save Western civilization and defeat the communists and the radical Islamists. Okay, so let me move on to a couple things. I knew this podcast was going to run long, so I'm going to make an adjustment here. And instead of going into a couple of other stories, I'll save them for the second half of the show. I want to close this half of the show with this story, because in putting the podcast together, it just struck me that literally a week ago, this nut job, who unfortunately looks like Jeffrey Dahmer, by the way, went to Mar-a-Lago with the intent of assassinating Donald Trump. And it's almost a non-news story. Since that day, we got the State of the Union. We got this nonsense about the Epstein files, and you're seeing I'm not covering that garbage. Oh, yeah? Because let me just say something about that. Let me take a little side thing. So here we have Comer and the Republicans and all Democrats, and they're just so proud that they're deposing Hillary and Bill Clinton about the Epstein files. You know what they're not doing? They're not deposing them about Benghazi, about the Clinton Foundation, about the stolen emails, about the Russia overthrowing of our government. They didn't depose them about that, did they? They want you to think it's great that they're talking to Bill and Hillary Clinton about Epstein as if they're going to tell them anything? What a joke. It's a disgrace. It's a waste of time. I got it. There should be justice for the Epstein files. This has been a distraction. This is not a distraction. We are a sick nation. We have people trying to kill our president because they're being propagandized. They're being pushed to do so by the same people who would not stand up at the State of the Union, who said, our job isn't to protect you, it's to take power and destroy the United States. It's clearer than ever. And I know most of you who watch this podcast have seen this. I've said China has paid for all this, whether it's the movement, whether it's the DEI, whether it's critical race theory, whether it's Black Lives Matter. All of this is a communist attempt to destroy us from within. You saw that in the State of the Union like you've never seen it before. And now people who've never seen it before can see it there if you share it. If you do your job to protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. But the fact that we had an assassination attempt, as clumsy as it was, on our president again this week, has fallen out of the news like it never happened, can never happen. You need to share that, and you need to talk about how we got to stop it. President Trump said in his speech, we must all condemn political violence, and the left did stand and applaud that. Now let's see if they do it. Okay, I probably didn't deliver that first half of this show as smoothly as maybe I'd wanted to, because the change with the war breaking out with Iran and all. But I hope you learned some things. I hope you got some perspective. I hope you've got your marching orders to call Thune every day and to just put so much pressure on your state senators that they wouldn't dare not pass the SAVE Act. Because I got news for you. If they don't, why should we vote in November? Why should we reelect any of them? We might as well just go straight to the streets and have a revolution. Because if we can't pass the SAVE Act, nothing that our country is formed on, not even the basic thing of voting and getting representation is true, then it's time to start all over. I'm sorry to put it that way. That's just the facts. I'm never going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. This is where we must turn the tide and reestablish in our 250th year what the Constitution gave us. And it starts with the right to vote and then goes on to the rule of law. Right now, we've got neither. It's up to you and I to fix that. That's our job every day, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to take a short break, and we'll be back after these messages. You've been watching the We the People Convention weekly news and opinion podcast, and my name is Tom Zawistowski. The We the People Convention news and opinion radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio 44312. When you're playing a video, including our podcast, you'll see this little cloud button. And if you click it, it'll actually download the video to your hard disk. And this works on our podcast page as well. If you're playing our podcast, and it's going to be loud, so I won't play it for much, but there's our podcast playing, and you can see this little, download button. Okay. The other thing you got to notice on our podcast page is that there's a link here where you can send me a message about this podcast. Hey, it was great. Hey, I didn't like it. Something was wrong, or here's a correction, that kind of thing. You can use that link. And then these are the stories that I covered in this particular podcast. And you'll see there's links that go to the stories, to the articles that I used in reporting on that. So you can click on that. You'll also see that you can sign up for our emails and text messages, but you can also watch our podcast on Roku TV and on Amazon Fire TV. And these are the instructions for doing that. So this is all on our podcast page, right on the front page where the yellow button was. So if you click there,
This is our podcast page. These are the instructions for watching on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. And I watch our podcast on TV. It just feels more comfortable. So you can do that. We're also on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, you should join Rumble. It's Tom Z at WTPC. You'll see our podcast there. So you can get us a lot of different ways, including on Apple iTunes. And then this is an audio version of our podcast. If you click here, it'll just play the audio of the podcast. It will not, show you the video. So people can, listen to that while they're jogging or, working out, working in the yard, or just relaxing and just want to listen to the audio and not watch the video. And again, this is available on phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, on your computer, any way you want. And you can share this whatever you see. If you're on a page that you really like, and you see an article that you think, geez, I've got to share this article, with someone in my family. You can send them an email by clicking on the little envelope. You can post it on Parler or MeWe. If you click on this, you get all kinds of options, where you can put it on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, which we don't support, but you can do whatever you want. So we ask that you share what you see on our We the People convention site, and that you get more people to look at it, because that's the whole idea here, to help educate people, inform them. And then, as I said before, Link, we're not just about talk, we're about action. And in my podcast every week, which is published every Saturday, so if the new podcast usually comes out every Saturday, and in that podcast, I will ask you to do certain things that will help protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So that's the We the People Convention website. Come back often, use it to be informed, and share it with others. Thanks a lot.
All right, and we're back, and we thank you for being with us. We hope that you're praying, for our troops and military people, and for President Trump as this attack on Iran plays out, as this podcast is going forward. Again, I ask you to look out. The key thing will be that Ayatollah Khomeini has to be gone, one way or the other, for this to be regime change. That it has to be. We've committed. That's what's got to happen. I appreciate those of you, who have been watching the podcast for a long time and donating. We appreciate your donations. It's going to be a heck of a year, and again, this is the year we win the war. So we appreciate your donations, and we will use them wisely. I do want to say, don't forget you can use our chapters player, which it comes out on Sundays. We do the podcast on Saturday. It takes a while for this company to process our podcast and give us another player that lists every story, and then you can just scroll down and say, well, what's that about? And it takes you right to that part of the video. Whereas the other player plays the whole video from start to finish. This one, gives you that chance to go into segments and then gives you a link. I do have to report to you, again, I told you that something strange is going on, that like all of a sudden our audio listening, the people listening to the audio of our podcast has just disappeared. I mean, I told you that we used to get 1,700 people to listen to the podcast a week. Last week it was 173. That's a 90% decrease. Why? I have no idea. I'll tell you right now, it's not because of you. It's not because you're not listening anymore. It's because somebody, somewhere, is sabotaging it. I know. For 16 years, that's all they've been doing. They sabotage our emails. They sabotage our text messages. Okay? So again, the fight is real. The fight is real across the board. Okay? You are part of it, whether you like it or not. And so you might as well fight, because you don't really have another choice, do you? So let's keep fighting by learning and sharing information. And then, this is the year we'll win the war, because what you do, what I do, what we do together, that's the point. Protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. That's why you're watching this podcast. That's why you're doing the things that I asked you to do. Watch the State of the Union. Call John Thune. Share the video of, with everyone of the left not standing up for defending Americans. Share the video where Trump says they're crazy. share the Save Act video with people, right? That's what you do. That's what we do. That's how we win. All right. So obviously we start the second half usually with international news, and it was going to be, it looks like war with Iran is coming, because on Friday they were evacuating the U.S. was actually sending people from the Israeli embassy out of the country. Okay. So that's a sure sign that things are not good. And sure enough, last night, we attacked Iran. Israel and the United States did. And in return, what did Iran do? Very interesting. And I'm posting on X, and in our story about U.S. and Israel attack Iran, you'll see a link to the Daily Wire that's doing these updates of kind of posts on that, so you can check that. But what's interesting is when it started, U.S. and Israel started attack Iranian sites. What did Iran do? They didn't just attack Israel and U.S. sites. They attacked all the Arab states in the region except for Saudi Arabia. They attacked Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, okay? And so they basically declared war on states, Arab states, that didn't attack them. What? So guess what? Now we've got more allies who are going to defend themselves and attack Iran. Going to be very interesting to follow this. So this story I want to share with you because it's really important, and it's just lost. Just lost. The EU energy war against Hungary escalates. Orban puts military defenses around critical infrastructure. This week, Ukraine bombed the biggest pipeline that provides the majority of oil to Hungary. What are you talking about? Hungary's a NATO member. Why would Ukraine do that? You know why? Because the EU hates Orban because he's a Trump guy and he believes in Christianity and Western civilization. And he has kept people from migrating to Hungary. He has stood against the EU and he's up for election. And they're trying to crush him. This is serious stuff. They also attacked Slovakia. This is what Rubio was talking about in his speech that I asked you to watch. Us at WeThePeopleConvention.org, where he says, we're going to defend Western civilization whether you're with us or not. Well, I got news for you. The EU isn't with us. They're against us. And now they're attacking NATO countries. Why didn't you have that on your news? How come we didn't hear about that? Yeah, because the media here hates Viktor Orban because he's likes Christianity. That's the country I've told you about for years where they give people that have 4 children a minivan, and that the wives that have 4 or more children don't have to pay income taxes the rest of their lives to promote what? Hungary first. Parents and families. Nationalism. They're under attack. Yeah, you didn't hear that story. Maybe you should read up on it. It'll be linked in our podcast section. Very important. This is an important story. Again, just moving so fast. Mexico on fire after drug lord is killed. Okay? This is an extension of something Trump did that, in the mix of things, you just lose it. You don't even know what's going on. But this is important. Trump's total elimination strategy paved the way for the fall of cartel kingpin El Mencho. Former acting DA Administrator Derek Maltz discussed the death of notorious Mexican drug lord El Mencho and the subsequent surge in cartel violence. Americans in Mexico are issued shelter-in-place orders as clashes intensify and airports were closed and cities were burning and all that because these cartels are like armies, okay? Government documents reveal the fall of drug kingpin El Mencho over the weekend was a culmination of an aggressive, more than year-long strategy of total elimination pursued by the Trump administration against the ruthless Jalisco New Generation cartel, which is present in almost all 50 U.S. states. This is what's going on. And for all your life, we knew this and did nothing. Did Biden do anything about the cartels? Did Trump before? Did his FBI and DOJ do anything that was undermining him? Did Obama do anything? Did the Bushes do anything? No. They let them kill our children, rape our wives and children, beat us up, run, prostitution rings and drugs in all 50 states. And Donald Trump says, no more. Ruben Nemesio Ortega Cervantes, known as El Mencho, the leader of the CNG, was killed Sunday in a Mexican military operation in Tilapia, Mexico, authorities said. Though the operation was carried out by Mexican forces, the United States laid the groundwork, making El Mencho's fall possible. President Trump's first day of office a year ago, he signed an executive order directing the State Department to designate several cartels and international criminal groups foreign terrorist organizations, a designation unlocking military-grade surveillance and material support for prosecutions. Though lesser known than Menace 13 or Trende Aragua, CNJ was one of the groups designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the administration. Okay? Trump is not fooling around. He's not going to let people kill our children with impunity. Gets no credit for that. You got to give him credit for that. You got to read that story and share that story. And then we got another war possibly breaking out. This Pakistani defense minister says latest clash with Taliban mean open war. What's happening? Afghanistan and Pakistan are fighting again, trading deadly shelling and mortar fire across a rugged border, with Islamabad's defense minister saying his country's patience has run out and declared open war on its Taliban-run neighbor. It's an on-and-off conflict that pitches Pakistan's well-funded, powerful, and nuclear-armed military against hardened Afghan Taliban fighters with decades of battle experience, including victories over the U.S. and NATO forces in 2021 after years of insurgency. So they're at war again. What's that going to do? I don't know. Pakistan's got nuclear weapons. Would they use them on the Taliban? You hope not. We're trying to stop this. It's just crazy. And so let me go now to some domestic issues, because there's a series of breaking stories that you need to know, and I wanted to put them in sequence real quickly. First story, more evidence emerges. Biden, Fulton County DA Willis coordinated to ensure Trump in prosecutions. So this whole thing, the Get Trump lawfare that played out in New York court and Georgia court and other state courts was a coordinated conspiracy to make sure Donald Trump could not run for president ever again and win. You and I rejected that and stopped it. But here's the evidence, and when are these people going to be prosecuted? The newly released memos from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office provide the latest evidence that Joe Biden's administration was at the center of trying to bog down his chief Republican rival, Donald Trump. Not bog him down, put him in prison for life by ensnaring him with federal and state level charges during the 2024 campaign and before. Memos from District Attorney Fannie Willis's office, which were obtained earlier this week by Just the News. Remember, I said John Solomon is who's getting all the leaks from this administration. He's their guy, like CNN and the New York Times and Washington Post are for the left leakers. This is John Solomon's role. Through a Georgia Open Records lawsuit, provide the most extensive evidence to date that the Fulton County prosecutors coordinated extensively with the Biden Justice Department and the White House, as well as Democrats on the House January 6th Investigative Committee, as she built her failed criminal case against the then former president. They basically showed that while they had meetings in the White House, Fannie Willis, they asked her to apply for a grant, a $2 million grant in the middle of this to do what? To pay her off. And so now you got the proof. Is she going to be charged with that? How about the people in the White House for conspiracy to commit, to interfere with our elections by illegally prosecuting a former president? Isn't there some charge in that? I guess there's no charges for anything if you're a Democrat. So then this story comes out. Biden's FBI subpoenaed Kash Patel and Susie Wiles' phone records during federal Trump investigation. This is before Trump wins. The FBI starts to look at Kash Patel and Susie Wiles, who is now Trump's chief of staff, who I didn't think was a big player before the election, okay? The FBI subpoenaed Kash Patel and Susie Wall's phone records in 2022 and 2023 when both were private citizens of part of a federal probe into then former President Donald Trump. Patel is the current FBI director and Wall is the White House chief of staff. At least 10 FBI employees were fired on Wednesday, Fox News was told. Names were not given due to privacy reasons, with the FBI Agents Association later criticizing the firing. Firing? I don't want them fired. I want them charged. I want them charged. If you had the ability to fire them, you should have had the evidence to charge them. They spied on American citizens under false pretense, and they weren't just American citizens. They were key advisors to your potential political rival. Is that bad enough? Do you think we're a banana republic? Do you think the Biden people were Marxist revolutionaries who would do anything? You know, when Susan Rice and Barack Obama are out there saying, if you work with Trump, if you're a company that works with Trump, if you're a federal employee, if you're an ICE person, when we get in power, we're coming after you. Wait a minute. You mean like you already did? You mean like you did before? Like you did under Obama when Obama came after Tom Zawistowski, who was president of the Ohio Liberty Coalition, to try to destroy us with the IRS? You think your threat is something we don't know? And now you're screaming that we're doing it to you too? Yeah, except we're following the damn law. You broke the law. But they haven't been charged yet, have they? Yeah, got to see how that ends up. And then, this story goes to another level. Another level. Listen to this. Kristi Noem, deep state officials bugged my phone and computer. She's the head of HHS. What? What are you saying? Deep state activists within the Department of Homeland Security secretly bugged the phones and computers used by top political appointees, agency chief Kristi Noem told the PDB podcast. Elon Musk's deputies helped me identify the deep state allies who downloaded software on my phone and my laptop to spy on me, to record our meetings, Noem said on February 26th. Can you believe this? We can't even protect our own Homeland Security Director. How are these agencies going to protect you and I from the communist Chinese? Right? Is that a fair question? It gets worse. Anyway, she says they had done that to several of the politicals, meaning not people who are lifetime government employees. Politicals are the people that Trump gets to appoint, which is these 4,000 people that, oh yeah, by the way, the Republican House and Senate won't do a recess so Trump can appoint all 4,000? The Republicans are keeping Trump from having his employees? Yeah, just a little side note. They had done that to several of the politicals, and so we ended up bringing in outside tech people, and we didn't have those technical experts here in the department looking at all of our laptops and our phones and recognizing that kind of software, and they found it. Then she says, I always believed when people talked about the deep state that before that it existed. I never would have dreamed that it was as bad as it is, she said. I'm still every day trying to dig out people who don't love America, not just those who work at this department, but also who work throughout the federal government. They're working in our federal government to overthrow America. That's called treason. They're traitors. They should be charged with treason, with sedition. It's unbelievable to me. Government employees, thousands of them. I said to you 2 weeks ago, every single person from Mayorkas to everyone who was involved with the border invasion intentionally tried to overthrow the government of the United States, and they should be charged with treason. I said that 2 weeks ago. Many top officials expect their conversations to be bugged by China, which has been deeply penetrated by U.S. telecommunications systems. But get this, she said, the deep state actors also had their own spy bases within the DHS building, she said. Deep state actors also had their own spy bases within the DH building. I just found the other day, by the way, a whole room in DHS headquarters campus that was a secret SCIF secure facility, sensitive compartmented information, a SCIF, like they always talk about, oh, congressmen can't read this information. It's too sensitive. They got to go to the SCIF and not have their phones and nobody else can be with them, right? There's a SCIF in the DHS headquarters that had files nobody knew existed. So we just happened to have an employee walk by the door and wonder, hey, what's in that room? They started asking questions. We went there. There was an individual working there that had secret files that no one knew about on some of these most controversial topics that we're discussing today. And now I've got that turned over to attorneys and we're getting to the bottom of exactly what happened there. Oh my God. Oh my God. Looms says she's trying to reconstruct the movement of scientists through the U.S. government and Chinese laboratories before the coronavirus crashed as well. Because her own agency helped the Chinese unleash the bioweapon. This is as bad as you and I thought it would be. It's worse than many of you thought it would be. Right now, a year after Trump is president, they have a room, a secure room inside of the DHS headquarters that's spying on Trump's actions. To give it to who? Why aren't they charged with spying? Why aren't they charged with treason? When are we going to hang by the neck one of these traitors? That's what the penalty for treason is. When are we going to do that publicly? Because this ain't going to stop until we do. And then one last story, that's just if you're not sick enough, here you go. J.P. Morgan admits closing Trump accounts on January 6th after January 6th Capitol riots as $5 billion lawsuit alleged political debanking. It's true. They did it. We know they did it. Trump's attorneys allege the bank placed him on a blacklist and closed accounts due to political discrimination. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank recently admitted it closed President Trump's bank accounts following the January 6th breach of the U.S. Capitol, a confession spurred by a $5 billion legal challenge from the president last month. The suit brought against the bank and its CEO, Jamie Dimon, in Miami State Court accused the financial institution of debanking Trump for political reasons, and now they admit it. They did it. He's going to win. Trump's going to win. It may not be $5 billion, but it's going to be a lot of money. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Jamie Dimon, the people in the bank who did this need to face personal charges. You think Jamie Dimon's going to write a check for $5 billion? No. The people who are stockholders and depositors of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank are going to pay the $5 billion. Jamie Dimon and his crooked, woke staff who did this, they're not going to get penalized at all, are they? It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Do we have laws or don't we? Can you debank people for political reasons or can't you? Wow. So then at the State of the Union, President Trump turns around and says, oh, and I'm appointing J.D. Vance to be my fraud czar, to be the head of our investigation into fraud. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness gracious, did he just do to J.D. Vance what Biden did to Kamala Harris when he made her the border czar? I hope not, but it sure puts J.D. Vance in a tough position with many Republican donors if he's looking for fraud from government. Wow, this will be interesting. So the next day, he had a press conference with Dr. Oz and said they're withholding some money. Vance announces new phase of fraud investigations, withholding $259 million in Medicaid fraud from Minnesota, which, that's a good idea. We needed to do that, right? We needed to do that. And so, what they're doing, J.D. Vance announced a new effort to combat fraud nationwide during a press conference in the Eisenhower Executive Building with Dr. Mehmet Oz, Administrator of the Centers for Medical and Medicaid Services. The federal government is temporarily deferring $259 million in Medicaid payments to the state of Minnesota while they investigate the fraud. What we're doing is we're stopping the federal payments that will go to the state government until the state government takes its obligations seriously enough to stop the fraud that's being perpetrated against American taxpayers. Minnesota already paid providers using state funds, but federal reimbursements are now on hold, and they're going to do this in California and other places, okay? And then Minnesota lawmakers, there's a Freedom Caucus apparently in Minnesota, they filed articles of impeachment against Governor Walz and Ellison, okay? So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Minnesota lawmakers have filed articles of impeachment against Attorney General Keith Ellison and Governor Tim Walz. State reps Drew Roach, Ben Davis, Mike Weiner of the Minnesota Freedom Caucus filed the documents. The lawmakers allege the leaders allowed state residents to commit rampant fraud. Well, they allege. Why didn't this happen a long time ago? How about if our members who watch this podcast in Minnesota write to Representatives Roach and Davis and Weiner and say thank you, but then write to your other representatives and say, where were you? Where were you when we were getting stolen blind? Where were you when this election fraud was happening? Okay, and Walz and Fry are supposed to testify in front of Congress, I think it's this week or next week. But again, testify? Arrest them! Arrest them! We have hundreds of whistleblowers who said, we told Walz directly, we told Ellison directly that they were stealing our money and had evidence, and instead of stopping them, they attacked the whistleblowers. You don't have evidence? You got tons of evidence. And I get told all the time, well, you know, Tom, the reason we're not charging anybody is because the courts are woke. We can't get a judge to do it. Look at Latina James and James Comey, and we can't get anything in Washington. Well, if that's the truth, then we got to go to martial law, because you either have law or you don't. And if you have judges who are breaking the law for political reasons, they need to be arrested somehow, whatever how that is. And yeah, you're saying, Tom, you're talking tyranny. I'm talking about survival of our nation, because it's on the brink. Okay? It's on the brink. And not enough good people are fighting for it. And certainly not the people that we elected, that's for sure. And then, here's a story I posted on our podcast page, because it's an important article. This is about Nevada, right? This article came out. I have no idea why this article came out, but I said in that page, I said, 2020 Nevada election was stolen. Here's the proof. And then on that page, it says, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and now Nevada. And they got the goods. They got the goods. Here's the story. A bombshell X report that has racked up thousands of views in hours lays bare the mechanics of what many Nevadans have long suspected. The 2020 presidential election in the Silver State was compromised by a deliberate, pandemic-fueled overhaul of voting rules by state Democrats that opened the floodgates to widespread fraud in 2020 and subsequent elections. The post from @the_skiff details a catastrophic surge in mail-in ballots from just 6,000 mail-in ballots in 2016, 6,000 to 690,000 in 2020. Citing the COVID-19 emergency as cover, the Nevada's Democratic Party unilaterally rammed through universal mail-in voting, unlimited ballot harvesting, unsecured and unmanned ballot drop boxes, extended ballot tabulation, and stripped away basic registration safeguards. In 2020 results, Trump lost to Biden in the state by 33,596 votes. Yeah, but over 40,000 individuals voted twice. More than 20,000 ballots were from voters with no verifiable addresses. 2,400 were from out-of-state addresses. 1,500 cast in names of deceased voters, and over 4,000 ballots were from non-citizens. These are not isolated glitches. They are predictable outcome of policies that prioritize volume and access over security. An all mail-in ballot, universal ballot system, substandard signature verification, and registration rules so lax that dead people and non-citizens could and did vote. Okay? Not to mention, and you'll love this one because this is unique to Nevada and some of the western states, not to mention in the viral post, but particularly egregious, was the vote buying activity on Nevada's Indian reservations during 2020. Groups like the Nevada Native Vote Project openly promoted raffles offering Visa gift cards up to $5,000, $500 each, electronics, clothing, and native beadwork in exchange for voting. Often documented these incentives on social media were people wearing Biden buttons. Okay? They went to the reservations and paid off the Indians, Native American Indians there, to vote for Biden. No, nothing to see there. Nothing to see there. So, as I've said to you, we've got the SAVE Act is critical, right? I don't have to remind you. You got to call Thune and your senators every day and demand that we pass it. Then we have the Supreme Court is looking at the racial gerrymandering, which we think they're going to throw out, and that's going to switch maybe 18 House districts to be more Republican leaning, okay? And then the issue of cleaning up the voter rolls. And Justice Department sues 5 states for access to voter rolls, including 4 red ones. This is important, 4 red states. Now, I've been talking about this. Harmeet Dillon, which you and I, our organization, took your donations and funded her way back during COVID when she was fighting against the COVID laws and things. She's now the head in the DOJ in the Civil Rights Division, and she's leading this up. The Justice Department sued 5 more states Thursday for access to their voter rolls after they failed to turn them over, including 4 states that are largely conservative and voted for President Donald Trump. The latest batch of lawsuits target secretaries of state in Kentucky, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Utah, and West Virginia. The move comes as the DOJ pushes states to clean up their voter rolls ahead of November's midterms by removing inactive, non-citizens, or duplicate records from their system, and sued states that failed to turn over their respective rolls. The DOJ has largely targeted blue states such as California, Oregon, and Maryland, but Kentucky, Oklahoma, Utah, and West Virginia are red states. We will not be deterred, regardless of party affiliation, from carrying out critical election integrity legal duties. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Harmeet Dillon said in a statement. Dillon also said Thursday that the DOJ has appealed decisions related to voter rolls in California, Michigan, and Oregon. The department has argued that it has the authority to review voter state rolls through the National Voter Registration Act, the Help America Vote Act, and the Civil Rights Act of 1960. It is critical that she win these lawsuits, and I believe she will, because it'll go to the Supreme Court. But the law says only American citizens can vote in federal elections. That's not happening. And it's not happening because non-citizens and dead people and duplicate people are on the voter rolls in this nation in all 50 states, red and blue, by the millions. By the millions. If Harmeet Dillon can be successful and clean those voter rolls and then enforce keeping them clean, it's a landslide in November. And you're going to see the lowest voting you've ever seen because all the cheating votes will be gone. Keep an eye on that. It's really important. It's a big deal. This was a big deal, and it's kind of it shows you how long it takes sometimes to fight the legal fights. Republican attorneys general win $29.5 million settlement from Vanguard over a climate push. But this is more than $29.5 million. This is about, remember, go back, you had CRT, critical race theory, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and there was this other thing called ESG. Remember ESG? Environmental Social Government. ESG was another commie plot to destroy capitalism. And what they did through the World Economic Forum at Davos and all that stuff, they convinced all these big Wall Street banks that they had a moral obligation, don't you know, to force the companies they invest in to follow the woke climate ideology in an effort to destroy America and capitalism. And they did it. And they did it. And the Republican states fought back. Because again, you're talking about these guys like BlackRock and Vanguard were going to stockholder meetings and making energy companies like oil and gas companies stop drilling to save the planet, don't you know? Which is all bullcrap. Okay? And so this case is important. Vanguard Group will pay $29.5 million and bolster its passive investing approach in order to settle a suit by 13 Republican state attorneys general claiming the fund managers and rivals violated antitrust laws through their climate activism. The suit in U.S. District Court in the Eastern District of Texas has been closely watched as a test of how far Republicans from energy-producing states would push Wall Street firms they accuse of overemphasizing environmental matters. In a press release, one of the plaintiffs, Kansas Attorney General Chris Koba, said Vanguard agreed to strict passive commitments, prohibiting it from dictating the strategies of companies in which it invests or pushing shareholder proposals related to environmental or social issues. Again, they were pushing these companies to hire incompetent people to meet quotas, right? To meet woke quotas. To do what? To destroy, as I talked to you last week about the Tennessee electrical system, which has a woke CEO that's put their employees through 100 trainings about how bad white people are, but didn't cut the branches that cut off the power to 30,000 customers during the ice storm because they're woke as a joke and incompetent. Remember that story from last week? So Vanguard said the deal reaffirms the passive nature of our index funds. The terms provide an easy off-ramp for Vanguard, but may be more difficult for its Texas co-defendants, BlackRock of New York and State Street of Boston, to accept. The states sued the three firms in late 2024 over actions like their membership in industry trade groups focused on climate change, which the Republicans have said serves to reduce coal production and boost energy prices. Okay? Big win, long fight. If you're in Kansas, I forget, there were 13 states. If you're in one of those states that's part of this, write to your attorney general and say, good work, good work. We must kill ESG as well as DEI and CRT. Good work. This is bizarre. This is where your head just explodes. Your head just explodes. Okay? Supreme Court rules that the Postal Service can't be sued even when mail is intentionally not delivered. What? It's bad enough that they can't deliver the mail unintentionally. I mean, I know you're having a problem where, the mail is almost useless. I mean, my mother sent me a birthday card. It took like a month to get here, okay? I mean, people send me checks that never arrive. And so they're grossly incompetent, but now the post office is just evil. Oh, yeah, they're above the law, according to the Supreme Court. A divided Supreme Court on Tuesday ruled that Americans can't sue the U.S. Postal Service even when employees deliberately refuse to deliver mail. By a 5-4 vote, the justices ruled against a Texas landlord, Labine Conan, who alleges her mail was intentionally withheld for 2 years. Conan, who is black, claims racial prejudice played a role in postal employees' actions. Justice Clarence Thomas, writing for the majority, who said this is okay, said the federal law that generally shields the Postal Service from lawsuits over missing, lost, and undelivered mail includes the intentional non-delivery of mail. What? I get it. You can't sue the federal government for incompetence, which again, you can have problems with that, but you can understand that they'd be crippled because they're so incompetent, they'd be getting sued all the time. So I get that, but you intentionally don't do it? In dissent, Justice Sotomayor wrote that while the protection against lawsuits is broad, it does not extend to situations where the decision not to deliver mail was driven by malicious reasons. Justice Neil Gorsuch joined his three liberal colleagues in dissent. President Donald Trump's Republican administration warned that a ruling for Conan would have led to a flood of similar lawsuits against the Postal Service. Well, it should have. The Postal Service needs to go away. And then you've got bad actors just literally saying, well, I don't like you, so I'm not going to deliver the mail, and now you can't do anything about it? Isn't there some law that the Postal Service has to deliver to everybody? That's why we got boats to deliver mails to islands from the Postal Service and rural carriers and stuff. Wow, folks, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And Clarence Thomas writes the opinion? Wow. Okay. This is something that you'll say, Tom, you've been beating the drum on this for way too long. Nope, not stopping. Haven't even started to beat the drums loud enough or hard enough until all of you understand and wake up. Technology is destroying the cognitive ability of our youth. You got to read this article at wethepeopleconvention.org, and you got to share it, okay? The U.S. spent $30 billion to ditch textbooks for laptops and tablets. Remember that? The result is the first generation less cognitively capable than their parents. Think about that. The result is the first generation less cognitively capable than their parents. In 2002, right, 23 years ago, Maine became the first state to implement a statewide laptop program for some grade levels. Then Governor Angus King saw their program as a way to put the internet at the fingertips of more children who would be able to immerse themselves in information. They sure did that, but it wasn't the information they needed. By that fall, the Maine Learning Technology Initiative had distributed 17,000 Apple laptops to seventh graders across 243 middle schools. By 2016, those numbers had multiplied to 66,000 laptops and tablets distributed to Maine students. King's initial efforts have been mirrored across the country in state after state. In 2024, the U.S., we, the taxpayers, they spent our money, more than $30 billion, putting laptops and tablets in schools. But more than a quarter of a century and numerous evolving models of technology later, psychologists and learning experts see a different outcome than the one King intended back in 2002. Rather than empowering the generation with access to more knowledge, the technology has had the opposite effect. Early this year, in written testimony for the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, neuroscientist Jared Coney Horvath said that Gen Z is less cognitively capable than previous generations, despite its unprecedented access to technology. He said Gen Z is the first generation in modern history to score lower on standardized tests than the previous one. While skills measured by these tests, like literacy and numeracy, aren't always indicative of intelligence, they are reflective of cognitive capability, which Horvath said has been on decline over the last decade or so. Citing the Program for International Student Assessment data taken from 15-year-olds across the world and other standardized tests, Horvath noted not only dipping test scores, but also a stark correlation in scores and time spent on computers in schools, such that more screen time is more related to worse scores. He blames students having unfettered access to the technology that atrophied rather than boosted learning capabilities. The introduction of the iPhone in 2007 also didn't help, which you and I have been talking about, okay? This is not a debate about rejecting technology, he said. This is key. It is a question of aligning educational tools with how human learning actually works. Evidence indicates that indiscriminate digital expansion has weakened learning environments rather than strengthened them. Okay? This is key. Let me read it again. This is not a debate about rejecting technology. It is a question of aligning educational tools with how human learning actually works, right? Apply the technology properly. Evidence indicates that indiscriminate digital expansion has weakened learning environments rather than strengthened them. Okay? So here's the point. Schools didn't scientifically implement computers. They didn't think about and do testing on how to do that and make it work. They just said, oh, look, we're modern. We're going to spend more tax dollars and make Apple even richer, and we're just going to give you these books, these laptops. And oh yeah, teachers, figure out how you're going to do that. Figure out what you're going to do. Yeah. Total failure. And it's disgusting because it's not serious. And so I'm going to share with you something that's really serious and I'm really excited about, because I've been trying to bring you all along, unwilling, a lot of you, about AI and what it can and can't do. And we've had a lot of videos and things to share with you. So this week, I finally came across a video that I've been looking for a long time. One of my top concerns is how can AI be used to fix our broken, non-functioning, bullcrap education system, which isn't an education system, it's a job program for woke adults. Okay? That's a fact. The statistics prove it. Okay? There's no fixing that because they can't be fixed, because they don't want to be fixed. They love it the way it is. They don't give a damn if your kid is stupid. They don't give a damn, okay? So I want you to watch this video because this is really interesting. How AI is changing education today. This is from a podcast that I watch and you should watch every week. It's called Moonshots. And this guy in this picture Peter Diamandis as the head of this moonshot thing. And this guy's really an interesting guy. He helped start the X Prize. He knows Musk and all these guys. And I watched this podcast because these guys have first-person access to the big people in AI and tell me what's going on. But finally, they did a whole podcast about AI in education. But here's what I didn't realize. I did not realize that this podcast was going to be an interview of these people who actually are doing it. They're not thinking about it. They're not, saying, well, here's how you could use AI. These people have actually opened up these alpha schools around the country and are teaching AI, teaching with AI. Okay? And here's the secret. They are educating students 10 times faster than our public schools. They are going to school, they're learning academics 2 hours a day. There are no teachers. There are no teachers. The AI is the teacher. They have developed programs in history, math, science, whatever. And some that already exist, some they developed themselves. They've raised $40 million to launch this, okay? And their kids, 100% of their kids are getting 100 on all their scores, whether it's a history test, a math test, or whatever. Because you know why? Because if they don't get 100, the AI figures out where their problem is and gives them lessons the way they learn. Auditory, visual, written, okay? Ways that they learn best. The AI represents the information to them, and then they learn it, and they take the test, and they eventually score 100. Now, again, you'll watch, this thing will blow your mind because they don't have teachers, but they have what they call guides. And I would call them coaches. They have adults in the room whose job it is not to teach you, but to help you and motivate you. To say, you can do it, Johnny, or you can do better than that. And it's really interesting how they describe the guides and how they find the guides and how they're changing. And you know what they do the rest of the day? Because parents want their kids in school all day so they can work. So they do education for 2 hours. And then what do? They teach them about financial literacy. They teach them about teamwork, about social skills, about how to live in the world. The rest of the day are these workshops that are fun. And you know what? They talk about loving to learn. Their goal is for the kids to want to go to school. We had this experience at the Portage County Tea Party because I've talked to you about this before. It's still going. It's called Liberty Camp for Kids. That Nan, my wife Nan, and Ann Kasmerick and Brenda Derryberry and a bunch of other patriots in the Portage County Tea Party came with this idea of Liberty Camps for Kids. It's a summer camp to teach kids about the founding of our nation, where they actually went back in time and went through the roles of meeting Washington and Jefferson and signing the Constitution. Kids would cry when it was over. Kids would keep coming back year after year. The older kids kept wanting to come back. We had to make a way for them to come and be camp counselors because they were too old. They loved it so much. This school, these alpha schools, kids are saying, can you please stay open during the summer? I don't want to go on vacation. The kids are saying that, would you rather go on vacation or would you rather come to school? And they want to come to school. They talk about how we knew 40 years ago, we knew the worst way to teach kids was to put an adult in the front of the room and have them sit in desks motionless. We knew that. We didn't change it. This is going to blow your mind. You got to watch it. You got to share it. I'm not telling you they figured it out. They will tell you they haven't figured it out. Okay? They are telling you that they're trying to figure out, how do you scale this to 1 billion children? Okay? You're gonna watch this and you're gonna say, well, this isn't perfect, and it's not. They've got serious problems because the freaking AI is changing so fast that they have to keep redoing the stuff that they're doing each year. Okay? It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. And it's going to say to you, yeah, this is the future. This is what we need. Watch that video, man. It's powerful. It's powerful. Okay, a few more stories. We'll wrap up the podcast. But I'm so excited about that, and I hope you will be too. Pete Segsveth is at it again, and we've been trying to kill DEI. And that's, I just told you about the Vanguard and BlackRock, having to get rid of ESG. Scouting America, formerly the Boy Scouts, to purge DEI policies to keep Pentagon support, Pete Hegseth just announced this week. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said Friday that Scouting America, formerly known as the Boy Scouts, agreed to abandon its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and ensure private spaces for males and females. Get rid of the trans crap, too. Hegseth said Pentagon could continue supporting the Scouting America contingent on its compliance with demands to stop woke policies. He added the department would yank funding if the organization did not follow through. After 2012, the Boy Scouts lost their way, and once a great organization has become gravely wounded. Diversity, equity, and inclusion crept in. The name was changed to Scouting America. Girls were accepted, Hegseth said in a video message. The focus on God as the ruler of the universe was watered down to include openness to humanism and earth-centered pagan religions. Scouting became an organization that no longer supported and celebrated boys. Historically, the War Department has supported the Scouts by providing personnel, access to equipment and installation, facilities, and office space. Hegseth said the changes adopted by the organization in 2012 jeopardized that relationship. Hegseth said Scouting America agreed to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order on ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity, which bars federal funding for organizations that promote DEI. He described the move as one of several key reforms the group has agreed to implement. Hegseth said the organization will be reviewing and replacing politicized, divisive, and discriminatory language throughout the organization's programs and all publications. No more DEI, zero. And Hegseth also said we're pushing them to change their name back to Boy Scouts of America. That's what we voted for. That's how you fight to win. Way to go, Pete Hegseth. That's awesome. That's just awesome. Okay? This is funny. I just had to do this because it's funny. Tampa International Airport says passengers must do their part and keep pajamas at home. The madness stops today. Well, this ended up being a joke that turned out not to be a joke, and I think it should be really true. Tampa International Airport set the internet ablaze on Thursday after its official X account declared war on what is called a full-blown fashion emergency unfolding at the gate. We've seen enough. We've had enough. It's time to ban pajamas at Tampa International Airport, the Post read. After bragging about previously banning Croc shoes, the airport said they were moving on to address an even larger crisis, pajamas. And the madness stops today, the X-Post read. The movement starts now. Help Tampa International Airport becomes the world's first Crocs-free and pajama-free airport. Do your part. Say no to pajamas at Tampa International Airport. In a statement, Tampa International clarified they were not actually outlawing sleepwear in the terminal, saying that the X-Post was simply a lighthearted, satirical social media content shared in an ongoing effort to engage with our followers. But it just took off, and people are saying, "Who gives you the right to say I can't wear pajamas? And if I want to wear pajamas, I should be able to wear them." No. Do you ever see the signs on restaurants that say "No shirt, no shoes, no service"? Do you ever see that? You don't wear pajamas in public, kids. Grow the hell up. You look like a moron. Have some self-respect. Have some decency. Have respect for your fellow Americans. And that goes for all this lewd, disgusting. I went to a Walmart the other day. This woman was wearing a top. She wasn't a very attractive woman. Very large, very unattractive. She was wearing this top where her boobs were literally falling out. Get some self-respect, America. When I grew up, when you grew up, if you're old like me, my mother made sure we dressed proper. out of respect because we represented our families and ourselves. So, Tampa, no, don't back down. And those of you who wear your pajamas, look in the mirror and stop thinking about your rights to debase yourself and start looking at the fact that you should make yourself respectable and be proud of yourself and have other people respect you instead of laugh at you because you're a frickin' joke. And oh yeah, you have a right to be a joke, but it's not good for you and it's not good for American society. Good job, Tampa. I love it. Perfect. Okay, going to wrap up the podcast here. Last week, I talked to you about the Freedom Trucks, okay, that PragerU is putting on. That link is still on our podcast page. You should be talking to them about getting a Freedom Truck. Go to PragerU.com and then /freedom-trucks-mobile.museum. Freedom-mobile.museum. That's going to be so cool. Those trucks are awesome. There's videos there that I showed you last week that are awesome. So, you look at that. Last week, I showed you the final version of our Happy Birthday America 250th. How are you going to celebrate all that we the people have achieved? We got our banner. Nan and I are thrilled. This bad boy is awesome. And once the weather finally clears up, we're going to put it on our house because we live on a park where people walk by every day, and thousands of people are going to see this. And then many of you have written saying that you would be interested in one. So we've gotten pricing for, ours is 10 foot by 4 foot. We've gotten pricing on like a 7 by 2 foot one, 7.5 by 2 foot on a 6 foot banner. And we're going to put links. So if you go to wethepeopleconvention.org, it says celebrate our 250th. There's a button. Click on that. It'll go to all the news about the 250th anniversary. I'll be updating that page weekly with new stuff. And look for a link that says, if you want a banner, click here to order it. And what you do is you'll make a donation to the We the People Convention that'll cover the cost of the banner and the shipping. And then you can do that on our website, and then we'll ship it to you. Stay tuned for that. I'll have that up this week, I'm pretty sure, but it's not right there now. I just didn't have time to do that because of all the breaking news. Okay? So we're going to wrap up our podcast for this week. As always, we're going to remember Charlie Kirk. We were so proud to see President Trump acknowledge Erica Kirk at the State of the Union and talk about how Charlie was martyred for his belief in God and in America. And we will never forget him, and we will continue to learn from him. Just go watch any Charlie Kirk video. It's amazing. He will live forever because it's like he's still here today. Just when you're feeling down, just go to Rumble or go to YouTube and just search on Charlie Kirk, and you'll see a bunch of videos on all kinds of topics. Click on one. It will brighten your day. What just a beautiful person he was and is, and we'll never forget him. As we close the podcast, what do you have to do? You have to share the stories we've talked about. You need to take the action we asked you to take. We asked you to watch the State of the Union. We asked you to call John Thune and your senators and demand they pass the SAVE Act and not stop. We asked you to share the videos about them not standing, that they say they don't think they should be defending American people. Democrats think that illegal immigrants are more important. They are to them because that's their revolution, not to us. You got to share that. If you want to share a story, if you want to tell us something, if you want to comment about anything in this podcast, write to me, info@wethepeopleconvention.org, info@wethepeopleconvention.org. We read all the emails. This is your podcast. We produce it for you. And its job is to give you the tools that you need to protect and defend our great nation for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren, and those who are unborn. Okay? Pray for our troops who are in harm's way in Iran. Pray for Donald Trump and his entire team. Pray for all the people of the Middle East, Arabs, Jews, everyone, innocent people, that as few of them as possible are harmed, who are killed. Pray for peace. Pray that we defeat Satan The great Satan is the Ayatollah, not Donald Trump. It's our time now to defeat Satan. That's what we're trying to do. Okay? We'll see what happens by next week. We'll know more. God bless you all. Until next week, you've been listening to the We the People Convention Weekly News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski. May God bless each and every one of you, and may he continue to bless our great nation. See you next week.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rattling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave? Because we are the brave. Yes, we are the brave. We'll fight to rename the name of the brave. We are the US of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's our future to save this land of the brave, the US of A. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, in the home of the
I hope you played that song a little bit louder this morning in light of the fighting that's going on. Our troops fighting again for our freedom, to fight and to protect us against the evil of terrorism. And so I will take this opportunity to read what I post at the end of every of our videos. Those of you who are listening, the few of you who are still listening only. This is a quote from Winston Churchill. He said, If you will not fight for right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory is sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory because it's better to perish than to live as slaves. Never forget those wise words from one of the greatest defenders of Western civilization in history. God bless you all.